Let me share. So we have completed the first module, and you know the scheduled quiz is tomorrow during the class time. So let us begin the second module today. In the second module, let me show you what exactly the syllabus contains. So these are the same course objectives and outcomes. Yes, this is the syllabus for second module. Again, ideally it can take up to 8 classes. It basically focuses on things like organizational structure for projects, organizational structure. Again, in that, the variety of structures like functional, product, and project organization, matrix and modified matrix structure for organization. That completes the organizational structure part. Then we'll discuss about the roles and responsibilities of a project manager. Then something like project risk analysis. What are the project risk analysis techniques? Under that, we'll discuss some techniques. Some are financial techniques like break-even. Of course, most of them are financial techniques like break-even analysis, then expected monetary value analysis, then make or buy decision making. So these are all financial techniques, or contain some kinds of costs or finance terms in its analysis, but it is related to risk analysis for projects. Apart from that, we'll also maybe discuss few more risk analysis techniques which are not completely monetary in sense. Of course, it's not in syllabus, but maybe I'll discuss. So these are the topics which we'll cover in this second module. I hope it will be useful to you because the topic like organizational structure is actually a very useful topic in any studies of management, be it project management, operation management, or general management. So organizational structure actually it tells us how to manage your human resource, your manpower effectively, so that there should not be any kind of confusion or ambiguity in terms of the roles they are going to play, in terms of the hierarchy. Means who is the superior, who is the subordinate, who will report to whom, and all these things has to be clearly designed into the organizational structure, so that there should not be any kind of conflict or kind of confusion, ambiguity, as I'm saying. So it actually helps us in carrying out any kind of planning or project execution. So that is the thing. And there are various types of structures. We'll find it today. There are various types of organizational structures. So depending on the kind of project we are going to handle, because as you can understand, all the projects are not of the same nature. Some projects may be labor-intensive projects. Labor-intensive, for example, handling one election campaigning is a kind of project which is labor-intensive. Means you are dealing with a lot of manpower and you have to utilize them effectively. So that is labor-intensive. Similarly, maybe some companies like, let us say, call centers, right? IT-based call centers. So there are a lot of manpower is there involved. Mostly your main resource that we are talking about here is human resource. Similarly, maybe in the production of a movie. So manpower, wherever manpower is the important or the main resource out of the 4 resources we know. Means there is hardly any material consumption, but manpower is more. So in that case, this organization structure becomes more important, right? It becomes more important compared to other projects where they are not labor intensive, like where construction of a bridge or a building, or maybe some plant or industry. So they are not called labor intensive because they also consume a lot of other resources like machines, materials. Of course, manpower is there, but it is not fully, labor intensive. So, so whatever case may be, whether it is labor intensive or not, organizational structure helps to effectively distribute the roles and responsibility as well as the authority associated with the responsibility, so that the tasks, the activities, or the overall project can be executed successfully, right? So if we can understand that, suppose you just start a project and maybe give that task to 100 people, right? 100 people, and you don't clearly state that who is the boss, who is the subordinate. Don't state anything, right? You simply say you are the 100 people and you carry out this project. You can yourself can see what will happen, how, in what direction this project will go. So after some time, you'll find there is full of disorder, chaos, and nothing is happening. There are a lot of fights and nothing is happening. So that is very natural. So for that reason, each and every organization, be it a project or a organization, will have a organizational structure. You take any example of any company, even nowadays these companies also spell out their organizational structure in their websites. So these companies, you can see their organizational structure in their website, and you can see how the authority is flowing top towards the bottom, maybe starting from the board of governors or the CEO or the CMD. So it is flowing downwards and it is being delegated level after the level. So that clearly states who is the boss and how the orders are to be taken and who is working under whom. So that is very clear. So that is the purpose actually for organizational structure. So as I said, it is a general topic from general management. But in the project management context, we are discussing this. The reason is that to carry out and successfully implement a project, we also need to have a well laid out organizational structure. Otherwise, it is not possible to complete the project. So in that sense, we will discuss what are the various types of organizational structures, what are their pros and cons, and finally, for different types of projects, what kind of structure are suitable. Means a kind of rough guideline. Okay, so let us proceed to this organizational structure topic. Yeah. So what is organizational structure? You can see this definition maybe. Organizational structure is concerned with the allocation of task and establishment of authority, responsibility relationship between the members of organization. It's a very crisp and pointed definition of organizational structure. It is not talking about any project or an organization, right? It is applicable to a project also. So it is talking about the establishment of authority, responsibility, relationship. And that is nothing but a kind of power hierarchy. That is the power hierarchy. Who is having the authority? And see, authority, it does not come alone. It also brings responsibility with you, right? Someone has to be answerable, accountable. So if you have more authority, so obviously you have higher level of responsibility or accountability, right? So the person who is at the bottommost rung of this hierarchy is having the least questions to be answered, right? Maybe the operators, the workers, they just take orders. They just take orders and they do that job, their activity. That's all. They're not answerable. Right? They will say, my boss told me, supervisor told me to do this. That's all. But as you'll go up in this ladder, right? So you'll find the accountability or responsibility increases, right? Increases. If something happens in the plant, some accident happen, then maybe the supervisor, the foreman, or maybe the sub floor manager or plant manager is answerable because he has the responsibility. Also, he's enjoying the authority, right? So this is very, clear-cut relationships which exist in any organization, and similarly for projects also. So what are the objectives of defining this organizational structure? We can read this. Understand the various Okay. These are the objectives for this particular topic, right? So objectives are to understand the various organizational structures for project management, understand how to choose the most appropriate structure, understand the role of corporate culture in project management. So we'll discuss in the context of project management, of course, but it is not different. Only thing is that for different types of projects, maybe different organizational structure will be suitable. But once you'll understand what are the various types of organizational structure, then also I'll tell you to just explore some companies. You can pick up any company and you can check their website. You'll find, in most of the cases, you'll find their organizational structure. You can pick up Reliance, Tata, or any company which you are interested in. They're most likely they will provide it in their website, right? And one thing you should also know, the organizational structure of a company is not a rigid structure, right? It's not that once they define that organizational structure, they have to stick to that. No. As the time changes, because of this market dynamics, they sometimes diversify, they sometimes close some of their business, they sometimes do this merger and acquisition. So many such happenings are there in their path of business. So they try to change the organizational structure from time to time, right? Suppose they started a new business in some foreign land, then maybe some manager will be deputed there, there will be some workforce and all that. So their organizational structure will slightly change. So it is not that once you have one organizational structure, it will be rigid for good. It's not like that. It can change. You can take any organizational structure, for example, the institute in which you are studying, it also has organizational structure. It may not be given in the website, but yes, there is a structure and it works under that organizational structure. So each and every organization is having a organizational structure. Okay, so we'll discuss these things, objectives, what are the challenges to organize projects, the uniqueness and certain duration of project relative. Okay. The multidisciplinary and cross-functional nature of project creates authority and responsibility dilemmas. Choosing an appropriate project management structure. This is the thing I was talking. All the projects are not of the same nature, right? They vary depending on the type, because the involvement of manpower, which are lower intensive or material based or maybe technology based or IT projects, or there are plethora of such examples of projects which needs to select the appropriate kind of organizational structure for it, right? We'll understand this when you'll get to know about this organizational structure. What are the various types of organizational structure? Some are tall, some are flat. So depending on that, even there is something called matrix, something called modified matrix. So whatever the structure is, it has got its advantage and disadvantages, some features. So for a particular project, which type of project, organizational structure is suitable, then we can discuss. that okay, if this structure is like this, it is suitable for this kind of projects because of the nature of the interaction and kind of see when you're talking about organizational structure, you are also dealing with human psychology. It is very much important. Human psychology in the sense the workforce, how the people behave, how the is disconnected. Okay, can you hear me now? Disconnected while discussing. Okay, so as I said, different projects may need different organizational structure which is suitable to them. Okay, so let us discuss more about this organizational structure. To classify this organizational structure, there is one structure which is called formal organization. Formal organization means where you have a very strong or maybe a rigid kind of structure which you are designing for the organization. That is formal. Means you are not believing in any kind of informal dealings, right? Maybe in contrast with this, suppose you have your own business, maybe a small enterprise or SME kind of thing, and you do not believe in kind of formal responsibility, authority, and all that. So that can become an informal organization, right? Anybody can take the order. For example, the recent times, the way these startups are working, they are mostly informal in nature. Means the person who has started the startup is also behaving like an employee, and he is not giving orders to the employees, but just behaving like friends or partners. So that is informal. Whereas formal organization means there is a very strict rule of this hierarchy. Means you cannot overtake any kind of level. For example, military organizations. There are very, that is the best example of formal organization. Right? Military organizations. You just cannot surpass your senior and put your problems or suggestions to the higher authority. No, it's not allowed because it's strictly formal. So that way, that is one type of organization that's called formal organization. So this is the internal structure of a business, the way in which human resources are organized. It takes into account the relationships between individuals, who is in charge, right? That is important. Who has authority to make decisions, right? For example, example I gave you the startup kind of, now the culture of startups are there. So there is no clear-cut, distinction that who can take the decision. It is almost like anyone who is finding that this is in the interest of the their startup, they can take decisions, right? That's why it is informal. I give that example. Similarly, there may be personal enterprises or private companies in which there is no clear-cut authority and anyone can take the decision. But compared to that, formal organizations, so that like the government, bureaucratic organizations, departments, you can call that state departments, or maybe military organization is the extreme example of that, in which it is not possible to take decisions. Even you cannot speak to the media, right? So that kind of. So it is clearly, I mean, defined that what is your role, from whom you can take your orders only. That's all. It's a very narrow, I mean, very narrow border, I mean, boundary is drawn around you, and you have to work within that. You cannot go outside that, right? You also cannot put your problems to the higher authority until and unless it is through the proper channel, right? Your application. Suppose you directly wrote an application to the CMD or CEO, right? Without passing it through your immediate boss, it will get written that through proper channel, right? That is the language. The proper channel means it has to be passed through or forwarded through your immediate boss and then the next if available or like that. So they are formal organizations. Who has the authority to make the decisions? Who carries out decisions? How information is communicated, right? So see, these are very interesting things. How information is communicated, right? Again, the information, when it is passing from top to down or bottom to top, has to pass through the designated channels, right? Your immediate boss will give you the information only, whichever is required to be given. It's not that everything he will share with you. Something he will do some editing and certain things he will tell you. Yeah, they are very formal. But in case of informal, they just share everything. It's just like an open forum. They discuss and they don't keep anything to themselves, and it is very open, and that is kind of environment in an informal organization. So compared to that, formal organizations are having these features. Okay, I hope you got the point. There is another term which is also related with this organizational structure, that's called span of control. Span of control means you can see this a small figure here. There is a manager. Below him, there are two individuals are working. Right. In the second figure, under the manager, there are 5 persons are working. Right. So that states what is the meaning of span of control. In the first case, when there are only 2 persons are reporting to the manager, it is called a kind of narrow span of control. Narrow. Right. Compared to the second one, when there are 5 persons are reporting to the manager. Right. So depending on your structure, you will select how you are designing your organization. Each is having its own advantage or disadvantage. So whether you want to keep a narrow span of control or a wide span of control, right? So they have their pros and cons, as I'm saying. So if it is a narrow span of control, then the manager is not under much burdens, right? He can take better decisions because only 2 persons is reporting to him. So he can make better decisions because he is not burdened with many people or many problems, because these subordinates will bring problems, right? Problems means the manager has to take decision, right? Actually, see, there's one thing coming to my mind that I must share with you. Whatever the post of this manager, or whatever the designation may be, when there are many people are working under you, right? And they will bring in their problems, right? This is the regular practice. They will bring in their problems, what they are facing, right, to the manager. And it is the manager who will take the decision, and that will be shared with them that, okay, you do like this. If this is the problem, you do like that, right? So ultimately, it is the decision making. I underline this word, decision making. It's the decision making which makes this manager either successful or a failure, right? And this decision making that he is doing is based on various inputs, various factors, right? Well, here the decision making is cannot be only from some bookish knowledge, right? How one becomes a good manager, right? What I personally think that it is a combination of multi dimensions for that person. It is not only getting a MBA from a good IIM will make one a good manager. No, maybe one part of that, but at the same time, what I emphasize on is decision making. Any wrong decision will have its repercussion, consequences, which may be bad, right? And if he's taking, fortunately, he's taking good decisions. So that is for his own betterment or for the company's betterment. So the decision making may be get influenced by his own character, right? The manager's own character and the kind of external knowledge or information maybe he has gathered throughout his career or life from experiences, right? At the same time, there are some tools are there which may help in the decision making. Like recently, you may be heard of terms like business analytics, data analytics, or maybe AI or some that kind of computer-based tools, right? They are just enabling technologies, you can say, which helps this manager to take decisions. But after all, it is a human being, and he is taking the decision, right? So this is the reality. This is the reality of management, whatever the case may be, whether it is project management or finance management or any management. It is just full of a bunch of decisions that you made in your career during your association. So what decisions you made and what is its impact or repercussion or consequences that defines you as a manager. That's all. Now, why people are learning management? Okay, because that helps in their decision making to some extent. To some extent. But again, there are many successful stories where people have never visited any management institute, but good managers. So what makes them good managers? Natural character, their traits, their nature, how to handle people, how to communicate, right? That is inbuilt, that is there in their, I mean, that is there. They have gifted, I can say. So that makes a good manager, right? But this management subject may help to learn some case studies, to learn some maybe decision-making tools, but practically, hardly any manager may be going to apply those things. Hardly, practically, I'm saying. But yes, they are tools which are used in academic purpose, but practically when people take decisions, they cannot just go by these tools which are there in the book to make a decision. It is applicable to all of us. It's either you are a manager or not a manager, but we take decisions not only just based on some analytical tools. No, we take a lot of things knowingly or unknowingly into consideration and make a decision. Okay, so that is the thing I just wanted to say. Now coming back to the span of control. So wide span of control and narrow span of control has its own pros and cons, right? So depending on your number of people in that organization, how to manage it, maybe sometimes your span of control may become wide, but the manager has to, manage with that. So span of control is the number of people who directly report to one manager in a hierarchy. The more people under the control of one manager is the wider the span of control. Less people means narrow span of control. Okay, the example below would have a span of control of 4 people. It's a typo mistake. Okay, it's 5 people. Okay, so again in the span of control, you can see one example here. right? This span of control is 34. The reason is that there are 34 persons, employees who are working in this call center, right? This is a call center organization structure, and they are all reporting to area sales director. Something is mentioned there. Okay, some designation, that yellow block. So all these 34 persons, they are reporting to this yellow block, who is a area sales manager or director, right? So maybe 34 is a very, huge number. It may be less than that. You can split this into two groups or whatever. But uh, typically in these situations, like call center, etc., the span of control may be more. You just cannot have one manager for two call desks. It's not feasible, right? So usually in such cases, there are many people who are reporting to one manager. So this is a very wide span of control. Now there are a few more terms we should understand to understand this organizational structure properly. They are called width and height of an organizational structure. Organizational levels of hierarchy. So width organizational structure can be described as wide with a larger span of control, or narrow with a small. Width is related to span of control. So span of control means large span of control means it's very wide. So width is more, right? Width is less means the span of control is less. So in that case, maybe it will be tall. So the other contrast word is height. Height means, so there are 100 people, let us say. There are 100 people in our organization. And you spread them, right, with a wide span of control, right? So that organization will have a wide structure. Or you may have a very tall organizational structure where the span of control is small, narrow. So the height will increase because there are 100 people. So you have to make a suitable design or structure for your organization so that it should balance these things, right? Neither of them is advisable, right? But depending on the nature of your business, it can be wide, it can be narrow, depending on that, so that there should be effective communication, effective delegation of the task, etc. Right? So just blindly you cannot have a structure. It should have some reason for designing that, for the kind of activities or business of that organization or project. So how you distribute the manpower, right? So that effectively they can communicate, effectively they can be given the responsibility and tasks. So width and height. So these are the two terms which are deciding the shape of your organization structure, right? If the width is more, the height will be less, and vice versa. So height, as there are levels of management or hierarchy, an organization may be tall with many levels or flat with fewer levels, right? If the number of levels are less, then it is flat, right? But in that case, it will be wide because the width will be more. Similarly, the other possibility is that it can be a tall structure. Tall structure means height is more, but the span of control will be narrow, right? So this way. Flat organizations have a wide span of control, and tall organizations have a narrow span of control. While there are pros and cons with both tall and flat structures, a company's structure must be designed to suit the business. Okay, that is what I already said. Which one is best suitable for your organization, that you can design, right? Of course, it is also not rigid. Once you design something for your structure and you found it is not working, you can change it. It is up to you. And many companies, they change their organization from time to time. I give you many such examples. Because of that, they change their structures, right? Suppose they merge with some other company. Suppose they take over some other company. Suppose they sell some of their plants or business, right? So whatever the case may be, so they try to adjust the hierarchy and this organization from time to time. Okay, so you can see this figure, tall versus flat. Okay, so the top one is a kind of tall organizational structure, because you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 levels are there. Can you see 5 levels? See, these small blocks are one employee there, right? And if we can see the levels, you can see the bottommost is after the bottommost line, there is another level you can see here, right? So there is a first level, then the second level, then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth. On the top block, there may be the chief, the CEO or CMD, whatever designation he may have. And then designations varies from company to company, but you have to understand that where they stand. The bottom one is a flat organizational structure. The number of levels are, can anyone tell me what is the number of levels in the bottom example? No, I think 3. 3, I think. See, each of the block is a person. That way you can see. So see, all these people in the bottom, like they are reporting to this person. So this is one level. Then he is reporting to this one. This is the second level. Then they are reporting to the chief. That is the third level. So 3 levels you can see. So this, compared to this one, this is considered to be a flat organizational structure, but it will be a bit wider. Means if the total number of employees you are keeping the same, then that way you can compare. It will be relative. Otherwise, it is difficult to say that it will be wider. Anyway, so you got the idea. What is the width? What is the height? And what is the types of, I mean, we have just started the organization structure. There are many things to discuss in the coming classes. Okay, so I think we should stop today here. Yes, this we will discuss in a fresh class. So I am stopping here today, and again reminding all of you that tomorrow we'll have the first quiz. I have scheduled at 9 a.m. right? And the quiz will be for 30 minutes. So try to submit it before 30 minutes. And don't wait for the last minute, because there may be some difference in your clock time and you may not be able to submit it. So better to submit it maybe sometime before that, because the kind of questions you will hardly need, I think, 10 minutes. So you can submit it well in time. Anything to ask from your side?
It will be MCQ.
Yes, it will be MCQ. Yes. ठीक है, एनीथिंग एल्स? आप लोग सब कैंपस में आ चुके हो?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, but after 15 you will have lab etc. through physical mode, right?
Sir, and theory classes will be online or offline?
अभी तक जो नोटिस है उसके हिसाब से तो थ्योरी क्लासेस ऑनलाइन होगा, बट आई कैनॉट से कि, क्योंकि मुझे लॉजिकली जो लग रहा है, जब आप कैंपस में आ जाओगे और लैब फिजिकली करोगे तो फिर इसको ऑनलाइन में भी, आई डोंट नो, बट आई एम रेडी टू टेक ऑफलाइन क्लासेस. लेकिन नोटिस के हिसाब से ये ऑनलाइन है, अभी तक तो ऑनलाइन है। तो कुछ लोग तो आ गए होंगे कैंपस में, बहुत स्टूडेंट दिख रहे हैं कैंपस में अभी। अच्छा, जो आ गए होंगे वो नहीं बोल रहे हैं, सोच रहे होंगे सर बुला लेंगे क्या। कम आउट ऑफ योर कंफर्ट जोन्स प्लीज। आप लोग जो ना एकदम ऑनलाइन को बात सोचते हो कि नॉर्मल है। दिस इज नॉट द नॉर्मल। यू हैव टू गो बैक टू द नॉर्मल, कम आउट ऑफ योर कंफर्ट जोन। तो आप लोग, यू आर गोइंग टू टेक a degree, professional degree. See, don't forget that. Suppose the medical students, they do all the classes and labs in physical mode till now. और आपका भी कुछ टेक्निकल डिग्री कुछ कम नहीं है मेडिकल डिग्री से। खैर हम लोग कॉम्प्रोमाइज करते हैं, बट you should do all the labs properly. You don't think this online kind of teaching is the normal. It is abnormal. You have to come back to normal. तो इंस्टीट्यूट जैसे बुला रहा है, आप should come prepare and come happily. आप लोग सब दो वैक्सीन तो ले चुके हो। यूज मास्क एंड यू कैन डू रेस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स एज यूजुअल। ठीक है। यस
सर, हमारे हॉस्टल अभी चेंज होंगे या फिर सेमेस्टर एंड के बाद में अगर हम आए तो?
इसका तो मैं नहीं बता सकता। हाँ नहीं, वो ठीक है, मुझे इसका तो इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है कि हॉस्टल चेंज क्या होगा, लेकिन व्हाट एवर द केस, वो आपका कन्वीनियंट तो देखा जाएगा, इसको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा। तो ये ऑनलाइन क्लास, वैसे आई एम नॉट इन फेवर ऑफ दिस ऑनलाइन क्लास। इसमें आई कैनॉट, आई मीन ये इट्स नॉट इफेक्टिव, इट्स नॉट एट ऑल इफेक्टिव। तो फिलहाल तो आपका लैब और प्रोजेक्ट ये सब आपका ऑफलाइन होगा। फिर थ्योरी का आज के डेट में जो नोटिस है उसके हिसाब से तो ऑनलाइन ही चलेगा, लेकिन उसके जो रीजन है वो भी वही है कि आपका एक क्लास में बहुत स्टूडेंट बैठेंगे तो प्रॉब्लम होता है, अदरवाइज और कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। लेकिन दैट इज आल्सो नॉट लॉजिकल। जब आप लैब कर रहे हो तो थ्योरी में क्या प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा? दिस प्रोटोकॉल इज जस्ट ए जोक नाउ। ओके, दैट इज माय पर्सनल ओपिनियन। एनीवे, अगर ऑनलाइन चलेगा तो ठीक है, चलिए कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। But what I think that if you are doing labs physically, then maybe some classes we can have also physical, so that you can have better discussion and interaction. What do you think? Okay, you reserve your comments, no problem. So I am stopping here, and again reminding you, tomorrow we'll have quiz. I hope all of you will attend that quiz.